Two massive buildings now gone, and now we look at where it all went. We have a special look tonight at all the wreckage that was taken from Ground Zero, all of it sacred, and it's all awaiting a home, a permanent memorial. It's all being cared for in a hangar at New York's JFK Airport. They don't want us to show you the outside of the building, but we can say this: if you've flown in and out of Kennedy Airport, you have taxied right by it. Tonight, for the first time on network television, you will get to see what remains of that day. It's as if that day 5 years ago is now contained in this room. The violence is over and the heat has cooled, but it's all here. You can feel it, you can smell it. It's enough to make anyone angry and sad and spiritual all over again. It's an airline hangar as church.
There's no question that this is sacred ground here again, as it is down at Ground Zero.
In many ways, the symbols of Ground Zero have moved here, and that makes Charles Gargano of the Port Authority responsible for these sacred contents. In the first big room, the once mighty, once shiny outer ribs of the building, now broken, burned, and rusted, and lying on their sides. How did they have the presence of mind to mark some of them save?
Immediately when we could gain access to Ground Zero, we sent in engineers to look for pieces that we should save.
In its own climate-controlled room is the last column removed from Ground Zero. New Yorkers remember the day it was escorted out. It had been signed by the rescuers, the cops and firefighters and iron workers who needed a way to say goodbye.
It was treated like a living thing when it was removed from the site.
Alice Greenwald is responsible for compiling all of this. Curator Jan Ramirez is responsible for preserving what's here. The trains, the turnstiles, everything as it was right before life changed forever. We next enter a room containing a form that's difficult to describe. In any other museum, it could be passed off as a meteorite. And while this was born of intense heat, this is altogether different. This formation is really 4 separate stories of the World Trade Center, compressed, compacted, incinerated, exposed to temperatures as hot as the inner Earth.
You never knew this existed.
On it, you can see the typeface from printer paper, which was exposed to so much heat it carbonized.
Is this your tomb of the unknowns?
In some respect, it is.
This room conjures up the great violence of that day and the great sadness afterwards. Sadness for the men and women who built these once gleaming machines. Sadness for the men and women who were so proud to serve on board these rigs. In some cases, the men and women who died in them as well.
This ambulance apparently was incinerated.
Apart from the horrifying condition it's in, it speaks historically to the loss of the seniority in the fire department that day.
In another room, a cylinder as big as an Apollo spacecraft. That is the base of the broadcasting tower that stood atop the World Trade Center, now here on its side.
That is the base of the antenna.
This was the base, yeah.
Just past the crosses and the stars of David that the ironworkers carved from the girders is the old wooden observation deck.
Stacy Senes, McGowan, we will never forget.
Inscribed with the goodbyes of the families that lost loved ones.
Everything you have lovingly brought to this building is part of a gravesite.
You approach the work you're doing with an attitude of reverence.
All of that material, a hangar full of material, still represents less than 1% of the wreckage taken from here at Ground Zero. Much of what you just saw will be on permanent display as soon as the Memorial Museum can be built.